What's up guys, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel where we talk about money and mindset as well as my family's own journey to pay off six-figure debt. So if you like videos like that, then make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Today we have a very special guest. My husband Jake has joined us for a video to talk about money and relationships. So I guess I'll start off by saying I was going to make this video a while ago, like we talked about, and then a few people commented, like, don't do it, it's going to be a bad idea, and so I guess my first question is, like, how do you feel about being here talking about money and our, like, personal money situation? And I guess another question is, how do you feel about me talking about our money on the internet at all?
It's a great question. Yeah, so I think I feel really good about talking about our relationship and money and stuff because I feel like we've come to a really good place over the years. We've been through a lot together, through money stuff and other things as well.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be here. I have no any qualms about sharing our finances on the internet. I feel personally like there's stigma around debt. There is a sense among a lot of people that a lot of people feel like they're not good with money, and so people get kind of intimidated. I used to be that way. I've learned a ton about money just being married to you. Aww. You know, and I've always felt like you were so much better at it than me, or so much more like you had spent more time on it, more natural with it. And so that contributed to a lot of, that's kind of like head trash. You know, it's like kind of like not real, but I always had that image of you as being like so much better than me with money.
It's really funny you say that because if you look at the numbers of it, I have way more debt than you. Yeah. You know, so it's like I'm was more responsible for racking up the credit card debt. I have way bigger student loans, but like yeah. So it's just
it's funny, right, exactly, because that reinforces the point that every person feels like they're not good at it, and that other people like the whole notion that there's a type of person who's good with money versus someone who's not. I think that's what is the big problem, because like I don't think there is a type of person who's good with money versus not. It's, you know,
so basically anybody can
be good with money. Yeah, exactly. So you have to just learn about it and practice it.
I agree. Nice. Okay, so let's get into some of your questions. I had asked you on a video a while back here on YouTube, and then more recently I had been getting a bunch of questions, so I did a little question box on my Instagram to see what questions you guys would want us to answer or want Jake to answer. So we have those questions here, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can and see where that goes. I would like to know how you got on the same page to start the debt-free journey. How do you guys decide what your financial goals are going to be? So those are two separate questions. The second one's pretty broad. So let's just start with the first one. How did you get on the same page to start the debt-free journey?
How did we get on the same page? It took a lot of work. It took a long time.
Yeah.
I think that for the longest time, I felt like it was just going to work itself out. I said, well, if we just go for it and we try to be successful, it'll just take care of itself.
Go for it, meaning like just go for it career-wise, and like the money, the debt will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, worry about the income only instead of how to then manage the money once you get it, which you start to learn that that's not the sustainable way. It all reinforces one another, being able to make more money as well as being able to manage the money you have better.
Yeah, well, and a great statistic that I love quoting is that a large portion of lottery winners go bankrupt within 5 years. So it's not necessarily about how much money you have, it's how you manage that money. If you can't manage a small amount of money, it's just as hard to manage a large amount. So
right. Yeah.
So how do we get on the same page to start the debt?
Oh yeah.
So you thought I was going to work it out.
So I always just, I just kind of had it was mostly because I was so, like, I was just so frustrated and upset about the debt. I knew we had so much debt, and like, I'd never thought in terms of trying to make money. Like I went through a program to do like music and arts and stuff for college. So like, even in college, I was always just like, money, whatever. And I was like, I'll just like, I don't know I'll just do my thing and it'll work out. But and that was mostly because I was out of a fear around it and like an insecurity about it, mostly to do with just not wanting to look at our finances, and because out of fear, I think, and just out of being like, I can't deal with this right now, and I don't know how to do this. I don't feel like I don't have the skill set, so I feel like I'm never going to learn how to do all this, and it's such a huge thing, and it's like, it was just so upsetting.
And what do you think the turning point was, though, that helped us finally face it?
Well, it was through the work we did on ourselves, I think, for our mental state, our emotional state. I think that was a huge part. I mean, I feel like that was probably the big catalyst.
Yeah.
You were already, I mean, both of us cared about finances. You cared more about the managing finance. You cared about both, but like I was sort of like being flippant about the managing of finances, and I was like, well, I'll just, get the income and everything will be fine.
Yeah. I wonder if like part of it was that I was more stressed about it because I had more debt in my name. And so I felt like more of a responsibility for the financial situation being so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think the other turning point for us, which doesn't necessarily have to be the thing that wakes you up, but when we had Aria and daycare costs, started coming in on top of all of our debt, we just realized like we can't afford anything. We're negative every single month.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the other. I mean, us working on ourselves, I feel like was precipitated by becoming parents in such a big way.
Yeah.
So it's like all that's
100%. Which I like in retrospect. I wish we had started earlier because having a kid was kind of the push we needed to do the work that we had. Like should have been doing before, but that's not like you don't have to have children to have the motivation to work on yourself and get your debt paid off.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a wake up call because we felt like we weren't gonna give our child the life and the type of parenting that she deserved, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel like I had racked up a lot of debt, a different kind of debt, in stuff that I needed to work on with myself over the years, and so then I end up racking up actual debt as a result of not working on stuff.
Yeah. And then the other part of the question was, how do you guys decide what your financial goals are going to be?
We think about what we want in our life and our future. Like what are our dreams, basically. What are each of our dreams? It all starts with that. Hi, bud. What are your financial goals? It has a lot of conversations. So like we talk a lot about a lot of things, especially with like our dreams and hopes and what we want for our family and ourselves and stuff and our children.
Yeah.
And I think that's where any financial planning then stems from that.
Yeah, kind of like work backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. So next question, I would love to hear the husband's thoughts on your finances, such as how he deals with financial stress and how he feels you deal with financial stress. How has a large amount of debt affected your marriage?
Great question.
So we want to start out with how you deal with financial stress?
Yeah, I mean, I have dealt with it in different phases of my life in different ways. Early, my mid-20s is when, I mean, we got together, we were like 23.
Right.
And by probably 20...
And now we're like 35.
Now we're like 35.
Yeah.
By about 25, how did that happen? I know. By mid-20s, I started really getting upset about the debt. I was like, we've got like hundreds of thousands of dollars over our head. And I like hadn't learned how to make any money yet. And I basically just kind of just went a little crazy and said, I'm just going to try to make so much money. I went way overboard in the direction of like, I'm going to just make a whole bunch of money and this and that. And it was good because it drove me in a big way to do cool stuff that now I'm doing because I love doing it. In my career.
Yeah.
But originally it was an unhealthy thing where I was pursuing like I want to make so much money to like give a middle finger to the banks who were in debt to the whole system and
FU money.
FU money, exactly. Yeah. I was like, I'm bound and determined to get FU money, exactly. And that was I crashed hard with that. And we got married at 26. Right. So I just remember like 25, 26 thinking about that debt.
Which was all student loans at that point.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't, like just the knowledge that you can't you can't file for bankruptcy and ever get rid of it. It's like this, there's something really bad about it. It really, it impacted me in this way where I started really feeling a little bit crazy from it. And I said, and it drove me to like go on this quest to try to like make F you money to try to make all this money, and I was like, became all I cared about was money. And now I've had to relearn everything about my job, have a new relationship with work, and I do it now. I truly do stuff that I love now, not just for money, but early on, like with that stress from and not know I had no financial literacy. It just feels like somebody is holding you down,
holding you hostage.
You hostage.
Yeah. So that was before, like, you basically, the way you dealt with it was like made you go kind of crazy, and you're like, I just need to go out and make like $1 billion.
Yeah,
and
action takes all kinds of action.
And then once you got in that mindset, you kind of got stuck and were just so career focused about making money and kind of lost sight of like
everything else,
Yeah, and that just became your whole focus. So it really took over your mental state a lot.
It took over,
and it was kind of like instigated by the debt mixed with the underlying like emotional, mental health stuff that like we all deal with and need to work through.
My demons do never face. You know what I mean? We all have demons.
And now how do you feel like you deal with the financial stress? Like today, like, do you feel stressed about our finances? Do you not feel stressed? How do you feel?
I feel like our finances, I feel much better about them than I have in the past. Thinking about financial stress is just another type of stress, and so in stress in general, how I deal with it now is so much different. With I do all kinds of meditating and stuff like that, and trying to get really, really, really still and things like that to try to be peaceful. And so that's kind of what my first thing I think when I think about how do I deal with stress.
So it's not necessarily like whether it's any type of stress, financial or otherwise, you kind of have similar techniques that you like turn to.
Exactly, yes, to try to not be stressed, so that way I can think about it when I'm not in a stressed state. Because if I'm thinking about it when I'm not in a stressed state, my ideas are better and more productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you think I deal with financial stress?
I think you deal with it great. I mean, considering the situation. When we were earlier in our relationship, you were like me. I think you didn't deal with it in a great way. Like, I think neither of us were healthy about that. We didn't know. We didn't have, not only did we not have financial literacy, but we didn't have like self-care literacy or like whatever you want to call it, health. Just balance, being a healthy person.
Life skills.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, just like how to just be and like, but I think now, with all the work that we've both done and all the stuff, it's just, you do really, really well with it. I think that it takes up more mental bandwidth for you than it does for me. Yeah. Because I think that, like we've talked about, like, I think that there's just more stuff connected to it in a way for you, and how like just because our life experience being so different, and I think that's why for me sometimes we got in a fight the other night about, like, I was a little bit flippant about our finances, and I can be sometimes still, because I still am. It's like I came up like thinking I was going to be like a starving artist at one point, so I was like, whatever, and so I think that, and I don't know, and other things just about life experience.
Maybe just like also some like innate personality characteristics.
Yes,
like
exactly.
You're just like
that too.
More of artistic and like go with the flow type personality. I've talked about this before on my channel. Whereas I'm more like logical, need to plan, like, you got a bachelor's in music, I got a bachelor's in political science, went to law school, and then you got your master's in business, but you do marketing, which is more of a creative thing. So I do have a creative side. Obviously YouTube is like a creative pursuit, but I also am like very just like, I like my spreadsheets and I like my calculations and my plans and my numbers, and I like to know where things are going. And you're more like, okay, trusting the process and knowing that we are going to get there. We have a general plan, but like we don't need to be so caught up in the like day-to-day stress of it. Whereas I feel like I get more caught up in the day-to-day stress of like small things.
Yeah, well, because you're managing it more day-to-day too.
That's fair. Thanks.
And that's partly because of the thing, like we're saying, with personality difference.
And it's kind of how, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it,
And it's kind of how we have decided to split the responsibilities, too.
Exactly.
Because,
how it's
like,
naturally split
I do
itself.
the grocery shopping, and so I manage, like, the grocery budget and stuff like that. You, like, if we decided you were going to start doing groceries, like, you would take that over.
Right.
But we've kind of split things up a certain way because it, like, we've played to our strengths of what each of us are good at and what each of us prefer to do when it comes to finances.
Yes.
And then we come together and like plan.
Yeah.
And then we have weekly budget meetings. So
which now we're doing more often. For a long time, it was just we could never do it. We never stick to it. I could never, and I would show up, and then I'd be like, I don't like. Yeah.
Yeah, but it took a long time to get on the same page. It took a lot of years of practice to get like really good and consistent at things. And now we've been consistent, pretty much consistent since we started paying off debt. Like we haven't gone like months without meeting, ever. No.
Because now I kind of like being involved in it, because now I feel like I get it now, and just looking at the budget more and more times in a row. Yeah. Every new time you look at it, you understand it a little bit more. Yeah. Now I feel you do feel more in control.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good one. How to start talking about money with your significant other. When to start the conversation, and do you feel comfortable with the budget? So how do you start the conversation? And separate the question is like, do you feel comfortable with our budget?
I mean, I think it starts to just kind of happen naturally. I think in the early days. Sometimes it doesn't.
I think for a lot of people it doesn't. A lot of people are afraid to admit how much debt they have until, like, I've seen things like until people are married, they don't even tell their spouse. Some people are afraid to be honest about it. So in our relationship, there was no hesitation to share from the beginning, like, exactly all of our situation. And we were friends for a long time before we started dating, so like we just had a closeness, and that it just kind of happened for us, but it doesn't for everybody. So maybe, like, if you were in a relationship with someone who isn't comfortable talking money with you, like, what would you maybe suggest to start to open up that conversation?
I think I would just start by just being really, starting off by being really cognizant of the fact that that this is kind of a tricky subject for people, and it's money is related to people's like survival and well-being and happiness. And so just to approach it really, really, approach it really thoughtfully. To really be like sensitive to the fact that it is like a tough topic to talk about. Right. Not expect somebody to be comfortable about it right away. Like ease into it maybe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And keep in mind the fact that everybody has it seems like everybody has some kind of like thing about money, and like a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm not good with money, or and then some people are like, no, I'm really good with money. And so then if you get two people in a relationship and one feels they're really good and the other is like, I'm not good with it, it can create a huge amount of strife in the relationship if it's not and approach your partner with just the empathy that, like, just knowing that their relationship with money might be just so different from yours.
Right. Yeah, that's a really great point, because everybody grows up differently too. So what you care about money growing up and where you grew up and everything really impacts the ideas about money that you bring to the relationship.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel like, money is kind of a bad thing, almost like that it's not, it's like a thing you don't want to talk about, and it's almost like if you care about money that it's like almost like bad or something like that. Like I encountered a lot of that growing up, like just, so yeah, it's just it's just about approaching it really thoughtfully, I think.
So the other part of that question was, do you feel comfortable with our budget? So how do you feel about our budget?
I feel a lot more comfortable with it these days than I ever have. I'd say I do feel comfortable with it now. Like, it's taken a long time to just every time going back into it and just looking at it over and over and over again.
I guess this question can be taken two kind of ways. Literally, how comfortable are you with budgeting versus how do you feel about how we're spending our money within our budget?
Yeah, yes.
So you're kind of answering that first question. Yeah, interpretation of it. So you feel good about it.
So as far as and because they're connected too. Like, so I do feel the better I feel about our budget, our sit down meeting around the actual spreadsheet budget itself, it's like that helps me start to feel better about our actual spending too. Because then I'm aware of why we're like, just for so long I just felt like I was not, because I wasn't taking control of my own half of the bargain with our finances, so like I didn't always know what was going on. I still sometimes don't know as much as you do. Like, it more like the back of your hand, I think, at this point, and I know that I'll get there that's the thing. I'm working at it.
Yeah. I've also made it like my career to budget now.
Yeah,
so
you spent a lot more hours working on it. Now, as I've become more comfortable with doing the budget itself, now I see how much we've got in different areas, and I have a better understanding of where all the different money that we make goes.
Yeah.
It makes me feel better about just the $5 that I go and spend on some thing, or the $2 I spend on an iced coffee, because I know where it lands in the context of everything else.
Right. Don't you feel like a budget gives you permission to spend rather than restricts you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel so much more like able to spend money without guilt now that we have a budget that works. And I feel like that's a really big misconception people have. People think that budgeting is restrictive, but like it's just open things up.
Exactly.
A lot.
Yeah, budget. It's if it's restrictive, you're not doing it right, I guess.
You're not giving yourself enough in certain categories.
Yeah, you're not giving yourself enough to breathe a little bit. I mean, of course, sometimes if you're in a situation where you can't breathe, you just have to go on with a small amount of air, I guess.
But a really tight situation.
Yeah, you have to make it get through that. But
yeah. Somebody said, would you ever consider selling your home and renting in order to pay off a chunk of your debt?
Yes, definitely. And I think that's something we are considering. You get to a certain point when you want to be in a home that is going to be the one that you're in for like a long, consecutive period of time. We're not at that place yet with this home.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Ooh, this is a good one. Are you as committed as me to paying off debt?
Am I as committed as you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am now. I can say that with confidence. I mean, I would have said it a year ago. I would have said, yeah, I'm going to make all this money and that'll be how we pay it off. That's the only thing that matters. That's all I think about 24/7.
But now
it's like, no, I'm committed to being part of the process the whole way. Like, and having structure to how we spend, and, and budgeting and being careful and saving money and worrying about saving for retirement.
Yeah. So it sounds like before you cared, but it was more like, I care and I'm going to take care of it with like one giant check when I make a bunch of money in the future, versus now you care, but you're totally on board with like working on it today.
Yes.
Versus like in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I thought I cared about it and I said, well, I'm going to deal with it in my way, the way I want to deal with it. You know, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
But I just had this plan in my head.
And the thing is, if you make really good money in the future in your career and have a very successful career, then that's still great. And my whole thing is I would love for us to pay off the debt before we get to a point like that. So then any like big paydays we get to keep it.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
we don't have to just send it to the creditors and stuff, and we get to invest it and go on vacation and do like live with it.
Right.
And,
exactly.
like have fun.
Yeah. You know what it was? It's that for me, like I was the only thing I needed. Really, what was going on is I needed something to preoccupy me, so that way I wouldn't have to stop and think about any of my. So I was going.
Demons.
Yeah, so I was going a million miles an hour, working all the time, thinking, well, this is me paying off the debt. This is me caring about my family. This is me caring about my health and my life. Is working all the time.
And I think that's a situation that a lot of people get into, and to stereotype, I think a lot of men tend to say, okay, I'm not gonna deal with the emotional stuff. Yeah. I'm just gonna go make a bunch of money and that's gonna fix it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be involved. I'm just gonna, and it was reinforced too. Like I've kind of felt like a little proud of myself that I could do that and all that stuff and everything.
This is a good question. You might have to think about it for a minute. So what are you cheap about, and what do you invest more money in?
I'm cheap about like kind of experiences and like vacations and stuff like that. I don't like go and do a lot of experiences that are like planned things with activities and things like that. I'm kind of I end up just liking to spend time with people or alone, and spending time together. And I'll like take staycations and stuff like that. I like to just really spend quality time with my family. What do I invest in? I mean, I really care about health and happiness, and thriving in life, family, things that you know, when I was younger, I didn't care as much about. I didn't think about. I thought just took for granted. So now I see a lot of the energy, like, you know, devoting. I'll invest in stuff for health and wellness. You know, different books around that, practices. I'll do therapies and stuff like that for like, you know. So yeah, I'd say that's where I really invest.
Okay, what is your money personality type? Like, are each of you naturally a spender or a saver? So, do you think you're more of a spender or a saver? Being like totally honest.
Being totally honest, I've probably all my life definitely been more of a spender, you know, and like almost not a saver at all. Until us, you know, that's when I started thinking about saving money.
Yeah. And what do you think about me? Do you think I'm naturally more of a spender or a saver? Being very honest.
I think you're more like half and half, kind of.
I think I'm more of a spender. Like I really had to work hard at not spending money.
Yep.
Like it doesn't. I'm not somebody who just like it's easy not to buy stuff.
Yeah. So is every saver a former spender?
No, I think some people just naturally are not like people that like spending a lot of money on things. That's like a style, you know?
Yeah, right.
But I think we're both spenders.
Yeah, we're both,
That's fun.
Yeah.
But we work together to overcome those tendencies and stay on our budget.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
What was the biggest financial challenge or financial wow moment the minute you moved in together?
The biggest financial challenge or the biggest financial wow moment?
I mean, we kind of lived together but had separate finances
until
we were married.
Yeah.
And then once we got married, I feel like that's more when we moved in together.
Yeah.
Right? Or when our finances were combined. Wouldn't you agree? That's when like the money became more of like a conversation topic between us.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, like, what was the biggest wow moment? Like, oh wow, good, or oh wow, bad?
I mean, for me, it was like, wow, she is way more like, you know, concerned about and involved with thinking about money and much more like structured about it and has her stuff together with it. That was kind of my biggest wows.
Again, it's so funny because it's like when we combined finances when we were married, you had some undergrad student loan debt, maybe like 25 or 30,000. And I had $160,000 of student loan debt. And like your impression of me was she has her stuff together. And I guess that's a good like reminder that the number isn't necessarily an indicator of how responsible you are with money just because you have a larger amount of debt. Like I went to a really expensive graduate school program and he hadn't gone to grad school yet. You know, it wasn't just all like $160,000 of credit card debt. I think that would have been different.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you had the debt, but you were in law school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was looking, you know, like that's obviously a high paying career and stuff.
Right.
So
that worked out real well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I think that that was my big wow moment.
That's really nice. So your wow moment is like seeing that like you thought I was good with money. That's really sweet.
Yeah, I did. I really thought it. And I thought a lot of things that you were just so different from me in so many ways because you were good at all these things that I was not good at.
I think that's sometimes what makes a relationship good. It doesn't have to be, but if you have complementary skills.
Yeah, and now it doesn't feel as much like that. It feels like more like...
Yeah, well, we both taught each other a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Over the course of like...
12 years.
12 years, yeah. Okay, how do you talk to your husband about what you plan on sharing on YouTube? So I guess I'll ask you that, like, how do we decide what I'm going to share on YouTube? I share a lot. There's very little that I don't share. I guess, like, do I just come to you and ask what do you think and you're like yes or no? Like, how does that conversation go?
I think because, I mean, when you first started doing YouTube, before you were doing stuff about our finances, you just did it.
Right, because I was talking about like infertility and my personal medical stuff that I was going through, and it wasn't having anything to do with you.
Yeah,
so.
It was your business, and then I think you still don't like consult with me. Hey, is it okay if I talk about this or that? You'd said to me like that originally. It was like, okay, hey, you know, I want to do the debt-free journey and put like, what do you think about putting our finances like up on the internet? And I was like, yeah, do it.
Yeah,
I was like,
I think we talked about like not disclosing how much income you make from your 9 to 5 because
Yes.
that wasn't something you felt comfortable
That's
with. And
right.
there's certain other like little things that we've decided like, hey, I don't really need somebody to nitpick through how we each spend our spending money, or like other like there's certain random things, but it's kind of like we just are on the same page so much because we've been talking about money for so long. I just kind of know like, hey, I think he probably wouldn't want me to say this. Then I come to you, I'm like, I should block this out on our budget, right? And then you're like, yeah, no, don't show
yeah,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
It's never been,
It's kind of just naturally like we haven't disagreed about anything that I've shown.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care that much. I'm like, you know what, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I really don't care what people.
Yeah.
And the only thing, like you said, is stuff with like our employers and things like that. You know,
Yeah,
we don't
keeping
wanna
that
show.
private.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah. How has your debt payoff journey changed your relationship? What do you think?
I think it's our debt payoff journey has brought us closer. I think it's been something that we have, you know, it's been a shared struggle that we've had. You know, I think it's brought us closer.
Yeah.
We've talked about how pissed off we are at at the situation, and
Yeah.
we're both in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has brought us closer for sure. Do you disagree on any money decisions?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we start off disagreeing, but then we come back. We eventually sort it out, and then we get to a place where we don't ever just say, well, all right, I'm not satisfied with the decision, but I don't care.
Yeah.
So let's just whatever, and then we just don't address it or something like that. We don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the biggest example of that is that originally, like, you cared about the debt, but you were more, like, focused on let me make a lot of money and then we'll worry about our, like, actual payments of paying off the debt later. And I was more like, I'm nervous today and want to, like, get this going. And then we came together and like became aligned over years of conversations.
Yeah, that's true. That's been, and we do so much better now after so much practice at it and talking through it and going through all the growth and all the growing pains and stuff. We used to, I mean, I definitely remember I used to feel like I was like, man, I just want to just pay the absolute minimum payments and I want to go, you know, I want to go spend money on, go out, do whatever and stuff like that.
And I think like when I saw you doing that, then I kind of felt like, well, then I'm going to do that too. And so then I'm going to go swipe the credit card a bunch. And then it just kind of like we both eventually realized that us not being totally synced up 100% on what the strategy was causing us both to have like no strategy and the situation to keep getting worse and worse. And then finally we were like, okay, we got to like really like nail this down and have a joint approach, because otherwise we're like both rowing a boat in a different direction and we're not like moving forward in the same direction. Yeah,
and for the longest time I always felt like I wanted to be involved in it, but then I just couldn't bring myself to do the work. There's still an aspect of it where I like want to be more involved than I am. We were talking about this the other day, and I'm like, I just want to do more, but I have barriers around doing finances stuff. Like it brings up feelings of like I get stressed out about it a little bit sometimes, and then
Yeah, I think like what I've learned from our relationship talking about money is that like much of the conversation is driven by emotions rather than the numbers, and like if we can sort out the emotional piece, that's when you really get on the same page. And like the numbers are basic math when it comes down to it, but like it's the emotions behind it that drive like the success of it. So
exactly, me feeling like, well, I want to be able to spend more, and you feeling like I want to save more, or like just, and then bringing up feelings of like, oh, I'm feeling like she's not listening to me, and then blah blah blah, and like, you know, this and that, and then I start getting all whatever. We all feel like that. Really
feeling like we each have an opportunity to be heard and not just like waiting for our turn to talk in these conversations is really important. Like to make sure that you feel like whatever you're saying, I'm really hearing and like reflecting on and taking serious, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So we can like get on the same page with stuff.
Exactly, because the thing is with paying off debt, there's like the two sides of it. It's like one is you're trying to live life. You have to live life right now.
You do.
But you also have to set yourself up to be able to like not be in like a worse position later.
Right.
And so then that's where you can start to feel like, I want to be living life more, or I want to be focusing more on later.
Yeah.
And that's hard to balance that.
We were talking about this the other day when we were having a money conversation, and I was saying how, like, you know, financial independence, retire early movement is like, okay, you save a lot up front, so then you don't have to work later. And then I was kind of like running some numbers and realizing like the point that we might get to FIRE, financial independence, retire early, basically early retirement, would be around when our daughters are graduating high school and going off to college. And so, like, is that the best strategy? Because it means we're working extra hard and spending less while our kids are in the house with us. And then as soon as they leave, we're able to cut back on work and like be a little more
free with our spending.
Yeah, free with our spending. And like, does that make sense? Like, I want to have the money saved up front, I think more for like security reasons, like peace of mind, knowing we're going to be able to retire comfortably and never rely on our kids and have all our debt paid off and be able to pay for our medical expenses and be giving with our kids and to others and stuff like that. But like, finding the balance between those two things is hard. And so I think it's an internal struggle within everyone. And then within the relationship, like, there may have been a phase where I was like, let's just live life. And you're more like, no, let's like keep our heads down and work. And then other times I'm like, no, we have to like just stay focused. And you're like, I'm sick of being focused. I want to live a little. And like being in the same place at the same time, especially for a debt payoff journey that's multiple years. Like, it's not just 1 year or 2 years. It's like 5 or 6 years we're doing this thing pretty hardcore, and that's a long time to really always feel the same thing as the other person in any given moment.
Yeah, that's the thing, is about finding, it's the you were just talking about that, it reminded me of like, we kind of have gone push pull, like we want to spend, save more, and then we're like, no, I just want to now live, and then no, I just want to now be good, and now I just want to live. And now I feel like, me personally, I feel like as I'm getting older, at 35, I feel like I'm able to do it more balanced, to try to do both, to try to just keep up both, to try to not just be like, okay, if I'm enjoying myself, then I'm going all out and I'm going to like blow all this money.
Well, and I think the other thing that we've found through work on ourselves is being able to live isn't necessarily so closely tied to money as we thought. Like, living is just like, you know, you took a walk with Aria this morning and you guys were sitting outside looking at the woods, sitting on some rocks and listening to birds for like 15 minutes. And that was like a beautiful, fulfilling moment. And that was totally free.
Yes.
And like really just being in a good mental state. So you like being here right now and enjoying the moments. Like, sometimes we make pancakes for breakfast. I'm going to cry because I'm pregnant and emotional. Like, sometimes we make pancakes for breakfast on the weekend and we all have pancakes together. And like, that's a very inexpensive, you know, $5 activity, but like, those are the moments that like just bring me so much joy. It's just like being together with our family, or like having a moment of peace outside, or things like that. And so the joy of living isn't so much tied anymore as we've gotten older to spending money, but more about like just being in a peaceful state of mind. And I think that's why like working on our mental health and spending money on therapy and like other mental health stuff and doing all that work has been so valuable to us. And like, we have made that a priority, spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on mental health, you know, care over the years to get to this place. And that's why we invested that money in that way. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to cut it off there because this video already is so long, and I think we've basically really covered the heart of most of the questions you guys asked. So thank you guys so much for submitting your questions. I hope you really enjoyed this video. You found it insightful. You found it interesting to hear us talk about money. I know every couple has a different dynamic, and money can be a really tricky subject. So I hope you guys got some value out of this video and enjoyed getting kind of an inside look into not just my opinion on relationships, but my husband's opinion on money and relationships.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
This is fun.
If you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up.
And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the red subscribe button to subscribe to Lauren's channel.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Okay, so we've been recording. I don't know how long this is going to be, but we're recording for almost 20 minutes and we've only answered 2 questions. But this is great.
This is awesome.
I think people are really going to like this.
One, yeah. Well, I'm just going to go become a multi-bazillionaire or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, let me start again. I was like, did you not want me to say that on camera for some reason?
No, I want you to be totally honest.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let me start again.
Yeah. I will put it in there.